I just sold this book on Amazon Merchant Fulfilled, and this is the perfect example of selling a book without a sales rank or selling books with very high sales ranks on Amazon that have a lot of profit or a decent amount at least. For me, I sold this one for $49.99. That's a nice profit. That's going to be um, probably around $40, probably a little less, maybe high 30s. And I only spent 50 cents on it at a local thrift store that's near my house. And this is a long tail item, obviously, because it had no sales rank. There was no other copy on Amazon for sale. There was no copy on eBay. There was no copy on ebooks.com. So this is a super rare book that uh, I'm never going to see again, and you're probably not going to see, but who knows? There might be a couple others floating around. It was, well, look at that. The publishing house is in Kenya. So a really interesting book. It's about, it's hard to read this, a manual for the African church. So it has a lot of songs, well, more than just songs. A lot of writing in here about how to do this. But it's very unique. It's truly one of a kind. Maybe not, it's probably not the only copy ever made, but it's the only copy currently available anywhere that I could find online to buy. It might be sitting in a bookstore somewhere. Who knows? But this is the kind of item that you might come across, type of book that you have to decide if it's worth sourcing and trying to sell. Now, I purchased this in January of this year. So in January, it is now November 2nd. So it took just under 11 months for it to sell for a $50 book. Is it worth it? Well, again, you have to make that decision. So for 50 cents, though, I'm willing to take that quote unquote risk. I always say that. Is it really a risk? I mean, the risk is, which isn't much of a risk. 50 cents is not a risk, but then you have to put it on your shelf. So it sat on my shelf here, or one of these shelves where I have my merchant fulfilled books for sale, or where they're stored before they sell. So it was just sitting on one of the shelves, not taking up that much space. So is there much risk at all? I don't think so. What makes this book unique? Well, number one, I couldn't find it anywhere. And I love when I find a book, a physical book that exists. It exists. Here it is. However, there's no copy for sale on Amazon and no copy on eBay because there's absolutely no competition. So I could have potentially listed it for $100, $200, but would it have sold for that amount? I felt that $50, it's probably going to sell when the right person comes along, and it did sell. Now, would they have doubled or paid double? Would they have paid 100 because it's the only copy available? Maybe. Maybe. But I do want to sell it when they come along. I don't want them to say, I'm not going to spend $100 on that book, even though I can't find it anywhere else. So it's up to you about how you want to price it, because of course you can't take offers on Amazon. I could have listed it on eBay as well. I'm not quite sure why I didn't, but I did not. And I'd actually recommend to myself that I do that in the future, especially for this type of book, because this is a good eBay book as well. It might have even sold quicker on eBay. I don't know what I was thinking back in January, but it did sell. But I would recommend this kind of book that there's no copy available anywhere else, to put it on both platforms to have a larger audience. But nonetheless, it did sell, and it's very specific. So number one, when you look it up, it has an ISBN, but when you look it up, there's no other copy. That's a potential, that's a potential really good sign that the book's worth reselling, because definitely keeping or having the only copy is pretty compelling. Also the topic. Okay, so it's a time to sing, but it's about the African church. It looks very sort of homemade, and it's kind of sort of cheesy in a way, the way that it's designed. Very, let's see, does it have the year? It's from 1999, so it looks very self-published kind of book. And the topic is, it's singing, but it's for the African church. I know African is pretty casting a wide net. It's not a specific country, although on the back it does say that. It says that she was born in Kenya, but then it also says that she's an ethnomusicologist and that she has traveled through all these different African countries. So it's very, very niche down. So yeah, I think it's a good example of one that you should consider when you're out there sourcing books. I sold another one. So this is one of 3 books on Amazon that I've sold in the last 24 hours, even though I only sold 1 item on eBay. So my eBay sales have slowed down, but my Amazon sales have picked up a little bit. So it's funny how that works sometimes. I also sold a book that was, when I listed it, I believe it was, I can't remember if it was this year or last year, but when I listed it, it had 3,600,000, 3.5 million essentially sales rank, which is pretty high for a book. But it did end up selling for $30 something. So that was a nice longer tail, higher ranked book as well. So just keep that in mind, guys, that when you come across these kind of books where there's no other copies, or there's very few and the rank might be high, or there's no rank, if you can get it for super cheap like this one, 50 cents, it might be worth it because some nice profit can come in. On the back end, you just never know on these kind of books, and they're really fun to find and really great to sell. I was really excited to sell this one and get into someone's hands who's actually going to use it and enjoy it, because it was just sitting on the thrift store shelf. I know a lot of resellers go to that store and they passed it up. So definitely keep this in mind, and hope you learned something. See you in the next video. Take care.